Hey everyone, Geophysicist Stefan Burns here. We are seeing concerning signs of increasing volcanic activity from Shiveluch Volcano on the Kamchatka Peninsula, Russia, site of the magnitude 8.8 megaquake that struck exactly last year, July 29th, 2025. We've been having nearly daily eruptions from Shiveluch Volcano, blasting ash up to nearly the stratosphere, sometimes actually reaching that tropopause boundary about 10-11 kilometers up. And while Shiveluch is an active stratovolcano, having these sort of eruptive episodes where you get an ash column sent up every few weeks or every few months, there's periodicity to it. Now it's becoming daily. And it certainly was activated after that magnitude 8.8 megaquake. Actually, a lot of the volcanoes on the Kamchatka Peninsula were activated. Krashenikov woke up for the first time in 600 years directly after that megaquake. And so this begs the question of, are we seeing preliminary signs of a much larger volcanic eruption to soon hit Shiveluch? Here we see footage from the 22nd of July. This one here going all the way up to about 7 kilometers above sea level, so a big eruption, huge ash cloud, as you can see. But we can also see the ash from that spreading out all the way to Alaska. So here's our ash dust probability percentage. So where it's really dark there is where you basically have very thick ash clouds moving across. So this is being blasted up into the upper troposphere, and then it's sweeping out across many thousands of kilometers at times. Here we see footage from the 23rd of Shiveluch erupting, another large eruption, this time also going to 7 kilometers above sea level. These are pretty quick explosions that are occurring. So maybe like 5, 10, 30 minutes. You have this lava dome that's growing on Shiveluch. We can actually zoom in here on Google Earth and see this lava dome very clearly with the 3D imagery. So that's the lava dome. So this is what's growing rapidly, and having parts of this are kind of exploding and letting up these giant ash clouds. But the entire thing is growing. If the entire lava dome is to burst, then that could give you a VE5 eruption, perhaps even bigger than that. Here we see Shiveluch Volcano from the 24th of July. So this was a big eruption here, going up to 8 kilometers above sea level. They've been in this like 7 to 10 or 7 to 11 kilometer above sea level range, which again is getting right close to the stratosphere. And you can even see it kind of hitting that layer and then spreading out from there. Here we see the most recent one that occurred either the 27th or the 28th. We did have an eruption on the 28th, but this timestamp here is hard to read, but I know this is of the most recent eruption. So I think this is July 28th right here, going to about 9.6 kilometers above sea level. So Shiveluch is really showing signs that it could be about to have a big eruption, which could perhaps even affect global climate. Global cooling could result as a result of all the sulfur dioxide and ash that's put up into the stratosphere. Here we see the evolution of Shiveluch Volcano going back to the megaquake. Here is our Morova data. We see radiative power, both logarithmic and then also a linear scale here, but better look at the logarithmic. We see that things really started up once you got to 2026. So we definitely saw activity bump up after that megaquake, but it was more so Krashenikov and Kluchevskoy volcano that were quite active, a couple others. But then Shiveluch has really been active over the past 7 months in such a way that it suggested that it could have a much bigger eruption. There were some big eruptions early June. We can check out that footage right here. So this sent a ash cloud up 12 kilometers above sea level, so into the stratosphere at that point. This was a huge eruption. And again, this is also tiny compared to what it could do. If that lava dome actually fully explodes and you get a huge surge of magma to go out, and maybe pyroclastic flows are going down the slopes of Shiveluch Volcano, this could be much bigger. So as it stands, this looks very impressive. It certainly is something to take note of, and you may have some ash fall on the surrounding communities, but this isn't necessarily a cataclysmic event unfolding for the residents there, but it is increasing quite dramatically as we've been seeing. So But we're staying right near these levels, as you can tell, at the high, moderate to high zone here. And if we go to our earthquake data here, we see all the activity that's been occurring nearby for the past year and a little bit of change. Because this really started up with this magnitude 7.3 that struck Alaska. Not a big swarm from that, as you can tell. That was on the 16th of July. And then you had a magnitude 7.3 that struck, 7.4 actually, that struck on the 20th of July at the location of the eventual magnitude 8.8 megaquake. So that was a foreshock. You also had these 3 magnitude 6.6 earthquakes. Then you had some lesser magnitude 6s, and here is your magnitude 8.8. And then look at all the aftershocks that have occurred since. You have high magnitude 6s, you have some magnitude 7s, a 7.4, 7.8, more magnitude 6s, and then you start to get Japan to wake up. So if we go further south, in November, Japan wakes up to the north here with a 6.4, a 6.8, and then, of course, we had this 7.6. We've had other magnitude 7 earthquakes, and now this latest here, 7.1 according to the Japanese, 6.8 according to the USGS. So all this activity, especially the activity around Kamchatka, but also this activity here is shooting seismic waves, ground deformation across the entire peninsula here, and also consider the volcanoes in Japan as well. We've had some big activity from Sakurajima that's pretty notable on a multi-year timescale. But really, this energy sweeping across Kamchatka, really activating these volcanoes. And well, Shiveluch Volcano here is looking like it's the most ready to go. This lava dome has been growing quite rapidly, and there's more runway on that. Here we see some satellite imagery of Shiveluch Volcano here. This taken from February 19th, 2012. And so this lava dome has grown quite a lot since then. But if we go down, we can look at the list of historic eruptions. And so this is based off of geologic data. Most of this, at least, is based off of this info that we get from the field. But we can see a lot of VEI5 eruptions. That's equivalent to Mount Vesuvius. So we're talking about 1 to 10 cubic kilometers of dry rock equivalent material being exploded. So look at all the VEI5 eruptions that have happened across time. So it's not like Shiveluch has never done this before. We could very easily see a VEI5 or even perhaps a VEI6. If something really big happens and the entire volcano blows, then you could get a VEI6 eruption. That'd be greater than 10 cubic kilometers of material. The biggest volcanic eruptions happened thus far in the 21st century was Tonga, Pai, January 15th of 2022 at a VEI 5.8. So a little bit of discussion around that number, but basically it was a big eruption, around 10 cubic kilometers of material, which has been affecting climate now since. Blasted a huge amount of water vapor into the stratosphere where typically there's very little, and now there's a lot. But Shiveluch Volcano here showing some concerning signs of activity. And interesting to note is how Shiveluch here has been erupting at very key times. So we can look at the data going from the 17th of July this year to the 28th. We have eruptions on the 17th, the 20th, the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th, the 26th, and the 28th. All right. One of those eruptions occurred at 9:15 a.m. Universal Time. Now, sunset for Kamchatka right now is at 9:30 Universal Time. So that'd be 9:30 p.m. for their local time, 9:30 Universal Time. They're UTC plus 12. All right, so it's exactly opposite. Well, if you take the average time, and they're all closely clustered around this average, mind you. If you take the average time for the eruptions for all the others, you get 1910 Universal Time for those. And well, sunrise is at 1830 Universal Time. So one of the eruptions occurred right during sunset, and then all the others are closely clustered around sunrise, showing, at least for this data set going back about 10 days, this is nearly 10, maybe this is 10 eruptions, right? That it's very closely synchronized with the sun, and perhaps that tidal influence as the Earth rotates into view, and also the electromagnetic influence, perhaps the ionosphere. Some electric currents from that are driving this explosive activity, but it's every single one here. I mean, on the 17th of July, it was 1925 Universal Time. On the 21st of July, it was 2045 Universal Time, 2125 Universal Time for the 22nd. Again, the average is 1910, and that sunrise time is 1830. So I'm pointing this out because we're also seeing this occur right now with earthquake activity, this clustering around specific alignments with the sun and with the moon. Here we see our earthquake activity for the past day, and we had a burst of seismicity that hit not only the Philippines, but also Japan, right as the moon, the full moon, happy full moon everybody, was directly overhead. So we had these magnitude 5s here pop off, where we had the site of the magnitude 7.8 earthquake on the 7th of June. And then here we see a 5.4 that popped off shortly afterwards, a 5.1 right there. And then if we go up here to Japan, we also see a magnitude 5.4 aftershock that occurred all in the same time frame. So the two main areas, these aftershock swarms, clearly it seems being activated by the transit of the moon directly over the Pacific and Philippine Sea plate to the Eurasian plate. And then at the same time, you get some other activity, not just in those aftershock areas, but also, for example, up here and right there, so to the northern Philippines. So we are seeing more and more evidence that the sun and the moon have a pretty strong effect over seismicity of this nature, not only high magnitude seismicity, but also the timing of lower grade seismicity. Strain and stress accumulates due to plate tectonics, other forces. But then what's the trigger? Well, it seems that the sun and moon are often triggers for these geo events. Another thing to point out here too is that we have this interesting line that you can see here of seamounts. Okay, well, if you go to our 7-day view here, we see that in fact we're having a cluster of magnitude 5 and high magnitude 4 earthquakes right around this volcanic node. So this goes back way in time, all right? It's actually subducting like this. You know, the plate motion's this way, as you can tell. You know, it's all being generated here by the spreading center. But clearly we're seeing increased volcanism, not just with Shiveluch or some other places like Hawaii, you know, 52 eruptions now in just a little bit more than a year and a half. That's record breaking for Kilauea. We're seeing, you know, enhanced volcanic activity other places. This volcanic node showing lots of activity. Look at all these magnitude 5s here. Really quite remarkable. Also Titan Ridge, Papua New Guinea, pretty big activity from Mayon volcano, from Fuego volcano, from Luotobi Lucky Lucky, from Sakurajima volcano. I mean, the list really goes on, but 2025 and 2026 has been a very, very active year for volcanic activity. And I think at some point, one or more of these volcanoes is going to create a defining moment within this phase. And what we see is that volcanic activity increases as you go to solar minimum. So you have all this energy loaded into the Earth during solar maximum, the descending phase, and then we see this surge of volcanic activity spike usually during solar minimum. So we're only getting closer to solar minimum at this point, and well, maybe Shiveluch's volcano is the one to finally go. So that's your update for today. I'll keep you on track as it relates to earthquake activity, volcanic activity, severe weather, geomagnetic storming. We have some space weather coming in around the end of the month according to NOAA. They're expecting G1 conditions, so I'll keep you up to date on that as well. We have this historic planetary alignment that's active right now. We have this full moon alignment with Jupiter and Pluto. We've been talking about that. The magnitude 7.1 that struck Japan yesterday, right in line with that. Perfect example of this planetary geometry in its archetypes, you know, aligning with real world events. So we talk about that as well, solar activity, space weather, all the things. I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Thank you all so much for watching. Please smash that thumbs up button to help the channel grow. Subscribe to stay up to date. I release videos almost daily, wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves. I'll see you all in the next video.